Right, Assalamu alaikum. We are going to start a new class in our course African Literature. Last time we have talked about the development of the African literature, and we have divided this literature into four phases. Each one of those phases has got its own features and characteristics, and each one of those phases has got its own famous writers, and each one of those phases has got its own form of writing literature. And the first phase, if you remember, we have called it oral traditions or pre colonial literature. We are going to talk about this phase in detail, or we are going to talk about the oral traditions of African literature in detail. Oral traditions are foundational elements of African literature. This means that most of the literary work which has been written by African authors, they depend completely upon oral traditions. It is storytelling practice that have been passed down through generations. Here are an overview of their significance, their forms, their function in African literature. One of the most important significance is the cultural preservation. What does this mean? This means that oral traditions serve as a mean to preserve history, culture, and values, transmitting knowledge from one generation to another. So, one of the most important overview and significance of this oral tradition is that the oral tradition is regarded as cultural preservation. preservation معناتها حفظت. عشان tradition, culture, preserve history, preserve culture, preserve values, and transmit them from one generation to another. Another significance, identity and community. These natives reinforce cultural identity and community bonds, often reflecting the shared experience and beliefs on a group. The African oral tradition has got another significance. The significance is the identity and community. Number three, moral education. This is a third significance in the form of writing oral African literature. Moral education. Stories often contain moral lessons, teaching values such as respect, bravery, and community cohesion. And community cohesion. So the point here, we are talking about three significance of oral literature. What are those three significance? The first one is the process of cultural preservation. Number two, the identity and community. Number three, the moral education. In this part of the class, we are going to talk about forms of oral tradition or pre-colonial period. So when we say form, simply we are talking about genre. How do we write literature? In a form of poetry, in a form of prose, or in a form of narrative, novels, play, and so on. The first form of writing oral traditions in African literature is the form of folk tales. What do we actually mean by folk tales? Folk tales, short narrative that often feature animal or mythical beings conveying lesson about human behavior and societal norm. Social norm. Example include the tales of Anisi and Spider from Western West Africa. So the first form of writing African literature is the form of folk tale. And you have to know by definition that folk tale is a short story. This story always narrated by animals or mythical beings, and the most important thing is to convey lesson. The second one is epic and legend. It is a long narrative. I want you to hold the comparison between folk tale and epic legend. Legend is a long narrative that recount the death of heroes, historical events, or founding of countries. So the legend always talk about dead heroes. The epic of Sanata, which tells story of the founder of male empire, is predominant example. So this is an example of epic. San Data, one of the famous stories which talk about the formers, the people who establish an empire, this empire called Mali. Number three, proverbs, short, pithy saying that encapsulate wisdom and cultural values. So the proverb is very short saying. In this short saying, we have got wisdom and cultural values. They are often used in everyday conversation to convey deeper meaning. For instance, wisdom is like Papo tree. Wisdom is like Papo tree. No one individual can immerse it. So wisdom is very large. Large. You can't immerse it. اللي هي الحكمة زي شجرة البابون الكبيرة جدا لا يمكن إنك تحضنها. Another form is songs and chant, used in various social contexts, including celebration, ritual work. They often incorporate call and response pattern, engaging the community. And the last one is ritual and performance. Oral tradition are often performed during ceremonies, integrating music, dance, and storytelling to create communal experience. The function here we are talking about the functions of oral tradition. The first function is a process of entertainment. Entertainment يعني وظائف الأورال African literature الأولى entertainment والentertainment هي الترفيه. Stories provide enjoyment and amusement, often used in communal gathering to emerge or to engage listeners. Number two, education. They serve as educational tools, imparting knowledge about history, ethics, and social norms. Number three, social cohesion. Cohesion هو التلاحم الاجتماعي social cohesion. Oral tradition fosters a sense of belonging. Sense of belonging. أهم حاجة الإحساس بالانتماء sense of belonging and community, reinforcing sharing values and experience. And the last one, the last function is the function of historical record. Record. Historical record. الهيستوريكال هي السجل التاريخي يعني الوظيفة بتاعت التراديشن ستوري هي عبارة عن تسجيل للتاريخ. They document historical events and cultural practice, serving as living archive of communities past. These are the most important functions of these are the most important functions of the oral tradition in African literature, and it was the first phase of the process of writing literature. We are going to stop here, and we have got a homework. I want every person to try to do it on time. Thank you very much, and I will see you in a new class. Goodbye.